Welcome to How Much Things. Today, we are going to explore something huge, something invisible to most people, something that quietly controls economies, governments, businesses, and even our everyday lives. We are talking about how much money is stored in banks worldwide. At first, this sounds like a simple question. You might think you can just add up the deposits in all banks across all countries and get one total number. But it's not that simple, because money inside banks is not just cash. It is not just the physical notes we can hold. It is also digital money, accounting money, credit money, and created money. Banks hold money. Banks create money. Banks lend money. And banks also borrow money. So before we can discover the massive number, the real amount of money stored inside banks worldwide, we need to understand what money in banks actually means. And once we understand that, we will go through the numbers step by step, country by country, region by region, and then combine everything to uncover the full scale of the banking system. Prepare yourself, because the number is not just large. It is almost unbelievable. Let's begin. If I ask you, how much money do you have in your bank account? You probably think of a simple number. Maybe it's a few $100s, maybe a few thousand, maybe more. But here's the strange part. The money in your bank does not physically exist inside the bank's vault. If your bank statement says you have $1,000, the bank is not storing $1,000 in cash, waiting for you. Instead, the bank stores two different things. A tiny amount of physical cash, a digital promise that says, "We owe you this amount." So when we say money stored in banks worldwide, we must decide what we are counting. Option 1. Physical cash stored in banks. This is the printed money actually held in vaults. Option 2. Customer deposits. This is the digital money people have in their accounts. Option 3. Money created by banks. This is money that did not exist before being lent out. Option 4. All of the above combined in this video, we will count all money stored in banks, which includes demand deposits, savings deposits, corporate deposits, government deposits, time deposits, foreign currency deposits, cash stored inside vaults, reserves banks hold at central banks, digital bank-created money. Once we count all this, we will discover the true size of the global banking system. But before we look at numbers, let's understand why banks hold so much money and why it keeps growing. Banks are not just storage places. Banks are machines. Money machines, credit machines, growth machines. And the amount of money stored inside banks reflects three things. Population: more people means more accounts. Economic activity: more businesses equals more deposits. Saving habits: some countries save more, others spend more. Trust in banks: people deposit only when they trust the system. Currency value: stronger currencies lead to larger deposits in global terms. Bank-created money: when banks give loans, they create new money that did not exist before. This increases the total amount of money stored in the banking system. For example, if you deposit $1,000 in the bank, and the bank lends $900 of it to another person. Now the bank has $1,000 in your account, $900 in someone else's account. Total, $1,900, but physical cash remains only $1,000. This phenomenon means bank deposits grow even without new cash being printed. Now that we understand how bank money works, let's start counting. Let's begin with the world's biggest economy, the United States. The United States banking system holds one of the largest pools of deposits on Earth. Here is the breakdown. Checking accounts, savings accounts, time deposits, corporate deposits, government deposits. When we add everything together, the amount of money stored in U.S. banks is massive. The United States holds around $19 trillion to $20 trillion in total bank deposits. But that's not all. Banks also hold cash inside vaults, reserves at the Federal Reserve, foreign currency deposits, money created through lending. So the U.S. banking system's full money pool is even larger. But for now, we include only deposits. Let's move on to the next giant. China has one of the world's largest banking systems. In fact, 4 of the world's biggest banks are Chinese. China is a country where people save a lot, easily more than most Western countries. And because of this saving culture, Chinese banks hold a huge amount of money. Total deposits in Chinese banks are around $40 trillion to $42 trillion, yes, more than double the United States. This means China alone holds almost 1/3 of all bank deposits on Earth. Now, let's continue. Europe is made up of many countries: Germany, France, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, and many more. Each country has its own banking system, its own deposit levels, and its own saving culture. When we combine the major European economies, total deposits in Europe reach around $16 trillion to $18 trillion. This includes deposits in all Eurozone countries plus non-Euro members like the UK. Now let's explore other major regions. Japan is a high-saving society. People save a large part of their income. Businesses also hold big deposits. Total money stored in Japanese banks: $8 trillion to $9 trillion. India has a young population and fast-growing banking sector. Total deposits in Indian banks: $2.3 trillion to $2.7 trillion. This number has been rising very quickly every year. Countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar have wealthy populations and large government deposits. Total deposits in the Middle East: around $3 trillion, including South Korea, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam. Combined deposits: $6 trillion to $7 trillion. Africa's banking system is smaller compared to other continents, but it is expanding. Total deposits: $1 trillion to $1.3 trillion. Countries like Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Chile, and Colombia have growing banking sectors. Combined deposits: $2 trillion to $2.5 trillion. Now, let's combine all the numbers. US $20 trillion, China $42 trillion, Europe $17 trillion, Japan $8.5 trillion, India $2.5 trillion, Middle East $3 trillion, rest of Asia $6.5 trillion, Africa $1.2 trillion, Latin America $2.3 trillion. When we add all this, global total deposits in banks: around $100 trillion, yes, $100 trillion. But wait, that is only the deposit money. Banks also hold reserves at central banks: cash stored inside vaults, interbank lending money created through loans, corporate liquidity, government funds. When we add everything, total money stored in global banking system: around $150 trillion to $170 trillion. This is one of the largest pools of money in human history. Here is the interesting part. Most of the money stored in banks is not cash, not printed, not physical, not backed by anything tangible. It is mostly digital numbers in computers. And even more surprising, banks do not hold the same amount of cash as deposits. If customers withdraw too much money, banks will not have enough physical cash to give everyone. This is why banks depend on trust, confidence, stability. If trust disappears, deposits can vanish in days. This is called a bank run. But in normal conditions, the system works smoothly. Out of the $150 trillion stored in banks, actual cash inside banks is only around $8 trillion to $9 trillion. That means more than 95% of all money stored in banks is digital money. This digital money is created through lending, which means the banking system is not a storage system. It is a money creation system. And this is why the number is so huge. Let's break down ownership. Households, around 45%. Businesses, around 35%. Governments, around 10%. Financial institutions, around 10%. So most of the money in banks belongs to people, not governments. But the distribution is extremely unequal. The top 1% holds more than 40% of global deposits. while billions of people have less than $1,000 stored in banks. Countries known for high stability: Switzerland, Singapore, Canada, Japan, Sweden, Germany, United States. These countries have strong regulations and high reserves. The fastest growth is in India, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, China, Brazil. These countries have rapidly expanding middle classes. If everyone on Earth tried to withdraw all bank deposits at the same time, banks would collapse instantly. Because deposits equals $100 trillion, physical cash equals $9 trillion. This means only 9% of the money stored in banks exists as cash. The rest is just digital numbers created through loans. This is why bank systems rely on trust. In the future, digital money will increase, physical cash will decrease, central bank digital currencies may appear. Deposits may grow to $200 trillion by 2035. Banking will become fully digital. Many countries may stop printing cash entirely. The banking system will continue expanding. So finally, how much money is stored in banks worldwide? When we count all deposits, all digital money, all reserves, all institutional funds, all government accounts, all corporate money, the final number is $150 trillion to $170 trillion stored inside banks worldwide. This is one of the greatest financial forces on Earth. Thank you for watching How Much Things. If you want more videos about money, finance, global systems, and hidden numbers, make sure to subscribe. Because there are many things we think we understand, but we don't really know how much they truly are.